Good morning, friends. So I've come on to do a talk about the portion of my very badly recorded conversation with you yesterday that I was guided to share. It literally got muted when I suggested that I was going to share some secrets of the Kabbalah around creation. So I'm just going to focus on that topic, because if you really want to hear the rest, you can go listen to the very strangely recorded message yesterday. But today I'm going to share some pearls for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. And it's about creating reality with the elements. And when I say elements, I mean earth, air, fire and water, and then the hidden element of ether, which many of us don't speak about. And I'm also, come on, this way. I got a puppy and a kitten, so sorry about the disruptions. But so what we're going to go into is are some principles that are listed in the Sefer Yetzirah. It's the book of creation. It's one of the books that is studied by people who explore esoteric teachings through the Kabbalah. So I'm a mystic, so I study many different traditions, and the Kabbalah is one of them that I value because it's one of the oral traditions that got written down. So there's some very old knowledge in there on just, mystical thought. And the thing that I'm most fascinated with is how to create your own reality. So if any of you are interested, this is an easier to get through book, Sefer Yetzirah. I would recommend listening to the audio on Audible, because it is a oral tradition that's been written down. So I find you can actually receive more when you listen to it. But what we're going to go through today is the three mother elements that the Sefer Yetzirah says are used through the act of speaking to create with speech. So the mother elements are Aleph, Mem, Shin. Aleph represents air, so the air that comes out of your mouth. Mem represents water, so the water vapor that comes out with your speech. And Shin represents fire. So when you speak, the air and the water vapor become like steam. You can see it if you're on a cold day because of the heat. So the three working together, the heat, so the fire from your body just when you speak, and the friction between your mouth. The Mem, which is the water, and then the Shin, which is the fire. You can remember fire hisses, so it's like sh, Shin. And Mem, you can feel the vibration of, the breath when you go because vibration is really important to speaking and creating, and we'll talk about that soon. And then Aleph, just think of the sound, Aleph, just sound of air. That's one way you can remember it. I mean, you don't have to remember the Kabbalistic terms for these. We're really just going into concepts. But just to expand a little on that, they then talk about the 22 letters, which are used to form words that come through this technology of speaking. And those of you who study numerology will know that 22 is considered the master architect. So it's about building your reality. And then it talks about the 5 different places in the mouth that are used as activators for speaking. So that's the palate, the tongue, the teeth, the throat. Palate, tongue, teeth, throat. I actually can't even remember the 5th. Oh, the lips. Yes. Okay. So the palate, the teeth, the tongue, and the lips. So when you study esoteric traditions, we basically like to break things down into symbols. And one of the symbols that is used as a general in many different traditions is numbers, which if you actually study the art of number symbology, it is so beautiful and magical. Unfortunately, we're not taught it at school in that way. And the way that numbers, which we call math, is taught is very dry and mechanical. And most people don't even know what they're doing. They have no idea. They're just memorizing and parroting concepts. There are few who remember from past lives or just have a certain mind that's been activated in different ways to see numbers as living and to see patterns. If they taught it to us as Pythagoras taught it, through geometry and mysticism, I'm sure a lot of people would be more interested in it. But one aspect of number symbology a lot of people find useful is numerology. So you've got the 22 letters, that's 22 different forms, and each letter has its own symbolism. This is a very symbolic teaching, and we'll talk about why soon. And then you have the 5 gateways in the mouth, and the number 5 is representative of mankind, because when you stand, like Michelangelo had his Vitruvian Man. So you've got the 5 points, the one arm, the second arm, the one leg, the other leg, and the head. So that represents man being alive and life force. And then some of the weirder traditions like to invert that and talk about man inverted, but we don't talk about that kind of stuff here. That's not anything I'm interested in, and I wouldn't advise any of you to explore it unless you're charged with protecting someone who got caught up in that, which, some people are strong enough to do, but I wouldn't advise it. So basically, when you're speaking, it's an act of using 3 different elements of creation to create the physical. So the physical is represented primarily by earth, right? You all know that. The earth is very dense and physical. But still, even the soil is made up of water, air, heat, because little grubs there are moving around and digging. But it's primarily earth, the element of earth. And so when you create, what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to take the mother elements to birth the reality. So air, water, and fire within this Kabbalistic tradition, and there's different traditions that probably use different elements as, there's very many ways of creating. But in this tradition, as the mother elements that then birth creation. And so if you are mindful that every time you speak, you're actually combining in a trine 3 mother elements to birth a reality, that act of being conscious of your speaking as a physical manifestation already happening is going to shift the vibration and the tone and the frequency in which you speak. And you will notice that the way you speak and the sound that you speak when you're conscious of this will change. So your vibratory resonance of when you're speaking will change. And that, in effect, will change the structure of what those 3 elements are creating out into the world, and eventually what you create. Now, if we go into layman's terms, I don't even know where that word comes from. Layman basically means someone who doesn't study the arts or the sciences, I guess. But people know that before anyone's going to create something like a business or a house or a pool, they're going to talk about it, and they're going to make plans, and then they're going to speak, and they're going to share, and that speaking is going to end up with people taking action, and then the action is going to take different elements, earth, air, water, so make concrete, and then you build something. So it's a fractal holographic representation in every aspect of reality. But I'm just sharing this with you so that you can be very mindful of the way that you speak and understand that you are using the elements, and that all things that are created within our world here on earth are made of the elements. So that's the portion that kind of got muted in my last recording. There was all kinds of weird sound things happening, but I just thought I'd share it again for those of you who were interested. And my intention is always to share what I'm guided to share. And as I mentioned the previous recording, which is a bit messed up sound-wise, I do most of my channeling in private, and I receive a lot of my guidance in private. Unless you're one of my personal clients, then I do it together with you. Because my work is very, it's very shamanic, and and it's very sensitive. I'm very influenced by, whatever is in my environment. So the more people that, the observer effect, when something's watching you, it can change the frequency of what you're doing unless you set a really strong intention, you build an energetic structure. So if I am going to channel for you guys, I will know that I will have set a very strong energetic structure. I mean direct. I'm always channeling a bit because, I'm tapped in, but to do a direct sort of a little bit trance-like channel. And also I probably wouldn't do the shamanic sound, breath, movement elements, because that might freak some people out who are not used to that kind of thing. But our bodies are tools. So we create different resonances through the sounds that we make, through the movement that we make, and through the posturing. That's the whole principle behind mudras. When you meditate, those of you who are meditators, if you hold a certain mudra, you'll breathe differently. You will feel different levels of consciousness when you hold it. Same with yoga. So that can be used in channeling information to come through. I'm an alchemist, so when information comes through and it is concerning to me, in alignment with my the mission that I have here, which is primarily to protect innocence and to restore harmony to the new evolving timeline, because there's a lot of discordance and chaos in this timeline, because we're shifting into a multi-dimensional space, and we will eventually, I'm told, be brought back to a more grounded, consistent dimension, but we're in the shifting phase right now. And so it's really important for those who know how to influence consciousness or vibrational frequency for the actualization of peace or harmony or love to be on the ball right now. It's not time for sleeping. It's time for adding your frequency. And so that's what I'm doing. And that's what I do with all of my clients, whatever we're working with, whether it's physical pain or health issues, mental health issues, desire to create businesses, desire to create art, desire to get over trauma or betrayal, or ultimately we want to get to a place where the resolution, the outcome is harmonious and one that aligns with the protection of innocence. So innocence is coming back to the inner sensing of your experience in the present moment. As a child, it sees the world and it feels what it feels inside and has a reaction. Innocence is lost when, through a traumatic event, you get a narrative of what the world is and you see it through that filter. So say you wanted to go roll around in the mud as a kid and it was like, oh, mud, this is amazing. And then somebody yelled at you and said, no, that's dirty and you're going to get sick. And oh my God. And then you have this whole fear around mud. And so now you like don't even want to take your shoes off and touch the earth because you have this filter. Now, of course, there can be like, things in the mud that are a bit dirty, but you can cleanse yourself afterwards. And actually, there's a lot of beneficial bacteria in earth for humans to be healthy. And there's a lot of studies done that children raised around pets who are rolling around in the earth often have healthier immune systems. So take everything with a grain of salt. But I don't want this to go on too long. I just wanted to add the bit that was cut out of the previous recording that I did, just to share with those who are wanting to create the reality, to be more mindful of the way that you speak and to understand that your body is technology. Everything you are is a technology as well. And I'm using the word technology not in the sense of like a machine or like an AI, but like you're using a tool and a technique to create an outcome. Please don't forget that you are a powerful tool of creation and be in awe of that. Like realize the miracle that is, and experiment and play around with it. The best way to learn and grow and develop is through play. Play around with it. Create different sounds. See how that affects you, how that makes you feel. Use your breath, to help shift things, moods in your bodies, or, study breath work. Just explore, have fun. Okay, well, that's all for today. I hope this message was beneficial for anyone. And if you have any requests on any topics you'd like me to talk about with regards to creation or consciousness or esoteric studies, then I'd be happy to do so. Wishing you a beautiful day, and I will be in touch in the near future. In Lakesh, Alakin.